The morning sun cast long shadows through the glass walls of Meridian Tower, headquarters of Reynolds Investments. On the 47th floor, Rose Henderson silently pushed her cleaning cart past oak doors and executive offices. At 52, Rose had perfected the art of invisibility, moving through spaces without disturbing the important people who worked there. Her dark hands, weathered by decades of labor, methodically arranged cleaning supplies as she prepared for another day of being unseen. "Morning, Rose Carr," said Tim from security, one of the few who bothered to learn her name in the 3 years she'd worked there. "Morning," she replied with a gentle smile that barely revealed the intelligence behind her warm brown eyes. Rose checked her watch. 6:45 a.m. She had exactly 15 minutes before the executive floor would begin filling with the young analysts and VPs preparing for the quarterly meeting. Rose treasured these quiet moments when she could clean without having to avert her eyes or shrink herself to make others comfortable. As she dusted the expansive conference room, Rose paused at the whiteboard where complex financial projections were scrawled in different colored markers. Her eyes narrowed as she scanned the equations. She took a step closer, careful not to touch anything. A smile played at the corner of her lips as she spotted something the writer had missed. A simple transposition that changed everything downstream. Rose shook her head slightly, then continued her work. 3 floors above, Alexander Reynolds III checked his Patek Philippe watch, a gift to himself after his company's IPO 5 years earlier. At 41, Alex had built Reynolds Investments from a small family office into one of Wall Street's most respected financial firms, managing over $40 billion in assets. He straightened his custom Tom Ford tie, his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows revealing a man whose confidence bordered on arrogance. "Mr. Reynolds, your executive team is assembled in the conference room," announced Melanie, his executive assistant, through the intercom. "Perfect timing," he replied, gathering his tablet. "Let's see if they fix that damn forecasting error." The quarterly review meetings were Alex's stage to perform, to remind everyone why he deserved the corner office with panoramic views of Manhattan. His father, Alexander Reynolds II, had been a moderately successful stockbroker, but Alex had multiplied the family fortune 20-fold. Every decision he made seemed touched by financial genius, except for this one persistent error in their flagship fund that had been costing them millions in missed opportunities. As Alex strode into the conference room, 12 faces turned toward him with expressions ranging from admiration to thinly veiled fear. The room smelled of expensive cologne and ambition. "Good morning, team," Alex said, settling into his chair at the head of the table. "Let's not waste time. Marcus, please tell me you've solved our little problem." Marcus Chen, Chief Investment Officer and Alex's longest-serving executive, cleared his throat. At 38, Marcus had graduated top of his class from Wharton and turned down offers from Goldman Sachs to join Reynolds. "We've made progress, Alex. The algorithm is much closer to tracking the market anomalies we've been seeing." "Closer isn't solved," Alex replied, his voice dangerously calm. "We've been discussing this for 3 months. That's 3 months of leaving money on the table." In the corner of the room, Rose quietly emptied trash bins, her movements deliberate and unobtrusive. She kept her eyes down but her ears open. "The discrepancy is still within acceptable variance," offered Tara Wilson, head of risk assessment. "Many funds would consider." "I didn't build this company by accepting what others consider acceptable," Alex cut in. He stood suddenly, walking to the large screen displaying a complex chart with intersecting lines and projections. "This is the difference between good and exceptional, and we are exceptional." Rose moved toward the door, having finished her tasks, but something in Alex's tone made her pause. She recognized the frustration of someone who could see a destination but couldn't find the path. "Sir, we've had our best quants working around the clock," offered Jason Miller, a promising young analyst. "The error is elusive," Alex laughed. A short, bitter sound. "Elusive? Or are we just not seeing what's right in front of us?" His finger tapped against the screen. "There's something here we're missing, and it's costing us. I'm tired of excuses." The room fell silent. Even the gentle hum of the ventilation system seemed to quiet itself. Alex's eyes swept the room, landing momentarily on Rose near the exit. Something sparked in him, a cruel inspiration born of frustration. "You know what? I'm so certain there's an obvious solution that I'll make a wager." His voice took on a theatrical quality. "Find the error in this model and I'll give you $20 million cash." Nervous laughter rippled through the room. The executives exchanged glances, uncertain if their boss was joking. "I'm serious," Alex continued, warming to his performance. $20 million to anyone in this building who can identify what we're missing." His eyes lingered on Rose again and his lips curled into a smirk. "Hell, even if the cleaning lady figures it out, the money's hers." More laughter now, louder, more confident. The idea that someone like Rose could understand their sophisticated financial models was apparently the comic relief the tense room needed. Rose's hand tightened around her cart handle, her knuckles whitening slightly. She had learned long ago to let such comments slide off her back, but something about the collective dismissal made her chest tighten. "All right, enough entertainment," Alex said, returning to his seat. "Let's move on to the Asian markets expansion. Sarah, you're up." As the meeting continued, Rose slipped quietly out the door. In the service corridor, she leaned against the wall, her mind racing through the equations she had seen earlier. She knew exactly what they were missing, had known from the moment she'd studied the board that morning. What Rose didn't know was whether to speak up. Her life had taught her hard lessons about knowing her place. But $20 million, that was freedom. That was her daughter Emily's medical school debt erased. That was her grandson Jamal's education secured. That was the community center in her neighborhood saved from closure. By lunchtime, the story of Alex's outlandish offer had spread through the building. Rose heard snippets of conversation as she cleaned executive bathrooms. "Classic Reynolds," said one man, washing his hands. "Making impossible promises he knows he'll never have to keep." "Did you see the way he looked at that cleaning woman?" replied his colleague. "Like she wasn't even human." Rose kept her eyes on the floor, her mind on the financial model, and her heart divided between dignity and opportunity. At 3:30 p.m., Rose pushed her cart back to the 47th floor for end-of-day cleaning. The conference room was empty now, but the model remained on the screen, locked in stasis until someone could see what Rose already knew. She stood in the doorway debating. Then footsteps approached from behind. "Forgot my damn phone," Alex muttered, brushing past her without acknowledgement. He grabbed his device from the table, then noticed Rose. "All yours," he said dismissively, gesturing to the room, "though you might want to wait until the team leaves before trying to solve our little puzzle." He chuckled at his own joke. Rose looked directly at him for the first time. "The error is in the correlation coefficient." The words hung in the air between them. Alex froze, his phone halfway to his pocket. "Excuse me?" "The correlation coefficient," Rose repeated, her voice quiet but steady. "You've transposed 2 digits in the third equation. It should be 0. 728, not 0. 782. Alex stared at her, momentarily speechless. Then a condescending smile spread across his face. "Right, and you figured that out while emptying trash cans?" Rose met his gaze without flinching. "I figured it out while cleaning the whiteboard this morning. Your team built the model on a faulty premise. The error compounds through every calculation." Alex's smile faltered. He looked from Rose to the screen and back again. That's not possible." "Check it," Rose said simply. Something in her confidence made Alex pause. He pulled out his chair and sat down, fingers flying over the keyboard as he accessed the underlying data. Rose waited, still as a statue. 3 minutes passed in silence. Then 5. "How?" Alex finally whispered, his face drained of color. "How did you see this?" Rose didn't answer immediately. She thought about the mathematics PhD she had nearly completed 25 years ago, before life took her down a different path. She thought about the night classes she still took at the community college, keeping her mind sharp. She thought about the financial journals she read during her lunch breaks, borrowed from the company library no one else seemed to use. "Sometimes," she said finally, "people only see what they expect to see." Alex stared at her as though seeing her for the first time. In that moment, everything he thought he knew about success, about intelligence, about worth, it all began to unravel. Outside the window, the New York skyline glittered in the late afternoon sun, indifferent to the small revolution occurring in the conference room high above the street. Rose Henderson, the invisible woman, had just become the most important person in the building, and neither she nor Alexander Reynolds III had any idea how this moment would transform both their lives forever. The silence in the conference room stretched between Rose and Alex like a taut wire. Outside, Manhattan continued its relentless rhythm, horns honking, people rushing, life moving forward. But inside, time seemed suspended as Alex's world tilted on its axis. "You're serious," he finally said, more statement than question. His eyes darted between the screen and Rose's unwavering gaze. "You actually understand all of this?" Rose nodded once, her posture straight but not challenging. "I do." Alex ran his hand through his perfectly styled hair, disrupting its careful arrangement. Where did you learn advanced statistical analysis? This isn't. He gestured vaguely at her uniform. This isn't something you pick up cleaning offices. A flicker of something, perhaps annoyance, perhaps amusement, crossed Rose's face. No, Mr. Reynolds, I studied mathematics at Columbia, 26 years ago. Columbia? Alex repeated, his voice betraying his surprise. And now you're cleaning your offices, Rose finished for him. Yes. Before Alex could respond, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. He glanced at the screen. Marcus Chen. The meeting in the executive dining room. They were waiting for him. I have to take this, he said, almost apologetically. But this conversation isn't over. He answered the phone, walking toward the door. Marcus, yes, I'm on my way. He paused at the threshold, looking back at Rose. Don't go anywhere, please. As Alex disappeared down the hallway, Rose exhaled slowly. Her hands trembled slightly as the adrenaline coursed through her system. She hadn't planned to reveal herself like this. Hadn't planned to reveal herself at all. For years, she had cultivated invisibility as protection. Now, in an impulsive moment, she had shed that armor. She moved to the window, looking out at the city where she had lived her entire life. From this height, the people below looked like toys. Small, insignificant. Is that how Alex Reynolds saw her before today? Rose wondered. 40 minutes later, Alex returned, accompanied by Marcus Chen. Both men wore expressions of barely contained curiosity and skepticism. Mrs. Alex began, realizing he didn't know her surname. Henderson, Rose supplied. Rose Henderson. Mrs. Henderson, Alex continued. I've explained your observation to Mr. Chen. He'd like to verify it himself if you don't mind. Marcus approached the screen, pulling up the complex model that had frustrated the company for months. You're suggesting the correlation coefficient is incorrect? He asked, his tone professional but doubtful. Yes, Rose replied simply. The transposition created a cascading error throughout the model. Marcus made the adjustment Rose had suggested, then ran a simulation. The three watched in silence as the algorithm recalibrated. When the results appeared, Marcus's eyes widened. This is, he began, then fell silent, running the numbers again. Correct, Alex finished for him. A strange mix of emotions playing across his face. Amazement, embarrassment, and something more complex. Mrs. Henderson just saved Reynolds' investments millions of dollars. Marcus turned to Rose, genuine respect in his eyes. The error was hidden in plain sight. We all missed it. How did you catch this? Rose shrugged slightly. It's easier sometimes to see things clearly when you're not too close to them. Alex paced the room, energy radiating from him. We need to implement this correction immediately. The quarterly trades execute tomorrow morning. He stopped suddenly, facing Rose. And about that 20 million. Rose's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't truly believed he would honor the outlandish offer. Had almost convinced herself she'd spoken up purely on principle. You were serious? She asked quietly. I made a public promise, Alex replied, studying her. And Reynolds men keep their promises. But I'd like to understand more about you first. In the executive bathroom down the hall, Tara Wilson was washing her hands when she overheard two analysts discussing the situation. Reynolds actually found someone who solved it? Said the first, adjusting his tie. Not someone. The cleaning lady, replied the second, his voice lowered conspiratorially. Chen's in there with them now. Tara froze, water still running over her fingers. The cleaning lady? The same woman Alex had mockingly referenced in the meeting? She shut off the faucet and dried her hands quickly, her mind racing. As head of risk assessment, Tara's job was to identify potential problems before they materialized. And something about this scenario raised all her internal alarms. Meanwhile, in the conference room, Rose had taken a seat at the table, something she had never done before in this building. The sensation was strange, like crossing an invisible boundary. Columbia University, Alex mused, sitting across from her. What happened? Rose hesitated, considering how much of her life to share with this man who had, until an hour ago, looked through her rather than at her. Life happened, Mr. Reynolds. Alex, he corrected. Life happened, Alex, she continued. I was 3 credits shy of my PhD when my mother had a stroke. I came home to care for her, intending to return. Then I had my daughter, Emily. Then bills needed paying. Then years passed. She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity. And you never went back? Marcus asked. I took night classes when I could, read journals, kept learning, Rose replied. But no, I never went back to finish the degree. Alex leaned forward. And you've been cleaning offices ever since? Among other things, Rose said. I taught high school math for a while, worked as a bookkeeper, did tax preparation. A small smile touched her lips. I've had a full life, Mr. Reynolds. Alex, he corrected again, then checked his watch. It's nearly 5. Would you be willing to continue this conversation over dinner? There's a restaurant in the building. Rose considered the request. Emily would be waiting for her call, their nightly check-in. Jamal had a school project she'd promised to help with. I have family obligations, she began. Please, Alex interrupted. You've just saved my company millions. Let me at least buy you dinner. Something in his expression, a newfound respect perhaps, made Rose nod. Let me make a call first. As Rose stepped into the hallway to phone her daughter, Alex turned to Marcus. I want background checks. Verify everything she's told us. You think she's lying? Marcus asked, surprised. I think she's the most interesting person I've met in years, Alex replied. And I want to know who we're dealing with before I write a $20 million check. Down the hall, Tara Wilson knocked on the door of Jason Miller's office. The young analyst looked up from his computer. You won't believe what's happening, Tara said, closing the door behind her. Reynolds is about to give $20 million to a cleaning woman. Jason's eyebrows shot up. You're joking. She apparently found the error in the model, Tara continued, her voice tight. But something doesn't add up. How could she possibly understand that level of statistical analysis? Maybe she has training we don't know about, Jason suggested. Or maybe something else is going on, Tara countered. Reynolds Investments can't afford another scandal, Jason. Not after last year's SEC investigation. Jason's expression grew serious. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we do our due diligence before Alex hands over a fortune to someone who might not be who she seems. In the elegant ambiance of the summit, the building's exclusive restaurant, Rose felt distinctly out of place, still wearing her work uniform. The maitre d' had given her a barely concealed look of disapproval before Alex's presence smoothed the way to a corner table with panoramic views of the city. I'm underdressed, Rose observed, as a waiter poured water into crystal glasses. You're fine, Alex assured her, though they both knew it wasn't true. Order whatever you'd like. It's on me. Rose studied the menu, noting prices that exceeded her daily wage for a single appetizer. She selected the least expensive option she could find, a simple pasta dish. So, Alex began after they had ordered, Columbia University, mathematics, nearly a PhD, and then cleaning offices at Reynolds Investments. That's quite a journey. Life rarely follows the path we expect, Rose replied. I'm sure even yours has had its surprises. Alex considered this. Fair enough. Though I've been fortunate, my trajectory has generally been upward. And mine downward? Rose asked, a hint of challenge in her voice. I didn't say that. Alex backpedaled, realizing his mistake. But you thought it, Rose said gently. Success looks different to different people, Mr. Reynolds. Alex, he corrected for the third time. Alex, she acknowledged with a small nod. Tell me about your daughter, he said, changing the subject. Rose's expression softened. Emily is 34. She's a nurse at Mount Sinai, finishing her nurse practitioner degree. She has a son, my grandson, Jamal. He's 12 and brilliant with computers. You must be proud. Every day, Rose agreed. Emily worked so hard to get where she is. Single mother just like I was. But she's giving Jamal opportunities I couldn't give her. Their food arrived, steam rising from Rose's pasta and Alex's much more elaborate steak. As they ate, Alex found himself increasingly intrigued by this woman who had been invisible to him just hours earlier. The $20 million, he said finally, setting down his fork. What would you do with it? Rose considered the question carefully. Pay off Emily's student loans, set up a college fund for Jamal, donate to the community center in my neighborhood. They're facing closure next year. She paused. Maybe finish my degree, though that feels self-indulgent at my age. That doesn't add up to $20 million, Alex observed. No, Rose agreed. It doesn't. Most people would have a longer list. Rose met his eyes directly. I've lived within my means for 52 years, Mr. Reynolds. I don't need much to be content. Alex leaned back, studying her. You're a puzzle, Rose Henderson. I'm really not, she replied. I'm quite straightforward. The world just doesn't expect people like me to be multifaceted, so it doesn't look for those facets. Before Alex could respond, his phone buzzed again. He checked the screen and frowned. I'm sorry, I need to take this. He stepped away from the table, answering the call. Tara, what's so urgent? Alex, we've been doing some checking on your guest, Tara said, her voice tense. There are inconsistencies in her story. What inconsistencies? Alex demanded, moving farther from the table. She did attend Columbia, but there's no record of her nearly completing a PhD program. She was an undergraduate mathematics major who dropped out after 3 years. Alex glanced back at Rose, who was gazing out the window at the darkening city skyline. Are you certain? Absolutely, Tara confirmed. We've also found some concerning financial issues, bankruptcy filing in 2010, tax liens. And Jason discovered something else. She worked at Blackstone Financial for 6 months last year. They fired her, but we can't access the reason why. Our competitor, Alex murmured. Keep digging. I want to know everything by tomorrow morning. When Alex returned to the table, his demeanor had subtly shifted. The warmth in his expression had cooled, replaced by a more calculating look. Everything okay? Rose asked, noticing the change. Fine, Alex replied, signaling for the check. Just a small crisis that needs my attention. I'll have my driver take you home. That's not necessary, Rose began, but Alex waved away her objection. I insist. And Rose? His eyes locked with hers. Thank you again for your insight today, I won't forget it. In the back of Alex's sleek company car, Rose gazed at the passing streets of Manhattan, her mind troubled. She had recognized the shift in Alex's attitude, had seen similar transitions countless times before, the momentary respect giving way to suspicion, the brief equality yielding to hierarchy. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. Address, ma'am? Rose provided her building's location in the Bronx, noting the slight raise of the driver's eyebrows. As they traveled north, the buildings grew shorter, the streets narrower. The glossy sheen of Midtown Manhattan gave way to the more authentic, lived-in neighborhoods where most of the city's workforce actually resided. When they pulled up to her apartment building, Rose thanked the driver and stepped out into the evening air. The security door was propped open again. The lock had been broken for months, despite residents' complaints to the landlord. Inside her small but meticulously kept apartment, Rose found Emily at the kitchen table, textbooks spread before her, Jamal beside her working on his laptop. Grandma, Jamal exclaimed, jumping up to hug her. You're late. Mom was worried. I called, Rose reminded him, embracing her grandson. Still worried, Emily said, rising to kiss her mother's cheek. How was your day? Rose set down her purse, considering how to answer. Interesting, she finally said. Interesting good or interesting bad? Emily asked, her nurse's intuition detecting the undercurrent in her mother's voice. I'm not sure yet, Rose admitted. She moved to the kitchen, filling the kettle for tea. Her nightly ritual. Something happened at work. They didn't fire you, did they? Emily's voice sharpened with concern. No, nothing like that, Rose assured her. Actually, I helped them solve a problem. A big one. Emily's eyebrows rose. What kind of problem? A mathematical error in their financial models, Rose explained, keeping it simple. It was costing them money. And they listened to you? Emily asked, surprise evident in her tone. The kettle whistled, and Rose poured hot water into her mug, buying time before answering. They did, at least at first. At first? Rose sighed, dropping a teabag into the steaming water. The CEO made an offer. Find the error, get $20 million. Emily's eyes widened. $20 million? Mom, that's probably not going to happen, Rose finished for her. I saw something change in him tonight. When he realized who I was, where I live, my background, the offer started to evaporate. Emily's expression hardened. That's discrimination. You can't promise something like that, and then take it back. It's not that simple, Rose cautioned. There was no written agreement, it was just words spoken in frustration. Still wrong, Emily insisted. If you found their error, you deserve recognition. Rose smiled at her daughter's protectiveness. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Later that night, after Emily and Jamal had gone to bed, Rose sat at the kitchen table with her worn notebook open before her. In it, she had meticulously copied the financial model she had seen that morning, working through the equations again to confirm her solution. She had told Alex the truth, but not the whole truth. She hadn't mentioned that she had been studying Reynolds Investments' public financial statements for months, comparing them to market trends as part of her ongoing self-education. She hadn't explained that she had chosen to work at Reynolds specifically because of their innovative approach to statistical modeling. And she certainly hadn't mentioned her brief, disastrous employment at Blackstone Financial, where she had tried to alert management to similar mathematical errors, only to be dismissed and eventually fired for overstepping her position. Rose closed the notebook and rubbed her tired eyes. Tomorrow would bring whatever it would bring. She had lived through enough to know that justice wasn't guaranteed, but truth had its own power. In his penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, Alex Reynolds couldn't sleep. He paced the expansive living room, tumbler of whiskey in hand, mind racing. The woman had solved a problem his team of Ivy League analysts couldn't crack. Yet something about her story didn't add up. Was she a plant from a competitor? A fraud somehow manipulating the situation? Or simply a brilliant mind trapped in circumstances that had buried her potential? Alex took another sip of whiskey, the liquid burning a path down his throat. He had built his reputation on being able to read people, to assess value and potential. But Rose Henderson had blindsided him completely. Tomorrow would require decisions. About the money, about Rose, about what kind of man, what kind of leader he truly was. Outside his window, New York City sparkled like a carpet of diamonds spread beneath him. Somewhere out there in the Bronx, Rose Henderson was probably sleeping, unaware of the storm gathering around her quiet revelation. The night deepened, and two very different people in two very different homes contemplated the same question. What would the morning bring? Morning arrived at Reynolds Investments with unusual tension. By 9:15 a.m., Alex had already convened his executive team in the same conference room where Rose had changed everything the previous day. "What do we know?" Alex asked, standing at the head of the table while his team avoided direct eye contact. Tara Wilson cleared her throat. Rose Henderson, 52, Bronx resident. Single mother to Emily Henderson, 34, a nurse at Mount Sinai. Grandmother to Jamal, 12. She did attend Columbia but dropped out during her junior year when her mother became ill. No graduate studies on record. Financial situation? Alex prompted. Bankruptcy in 2010 following significant medical bills, Marcus added. Currently earning $17.50 per hour through Citywide Cleaning Services, the contractor we use. Prior employment includes tax preparation at H&R Block, high school mathematics substitute teaching, and 6 months at Blackstone Financial last year. Alex's eyes narrowed. And the Blackstone connection? Jason Miller spoke up. She was hired as office support staff but terminated after 6 months. Official reason listed as, not a good fit, but we've been unable to get more details. Alex paced the room, processing. Options? Pay her, Marcus suggested immediately. She found the error, saved us millions. The $20 million is excessive, but some compensation seems appropriate. She worked for our main competitor, Tara countered. This could be corporate espionage, planting someone to access our proprietary models. As a cleaner? Marcus scoffed. That's far-fetched. Is it? Tara challenged. She's clearly intelligent enough to understand our models. What better cover than someone invisible to us all? Alex stopped pacing. Other views? Sarah Johnson, marketing director, spoke up. There's a reputation angle here. If word gets out that we refuse to honor a public promise to a black cleaning woman who solved our problem, it could be devastating, especially after last year's diversity controversy. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Alex checked his watch. She'll be here in 20 minutes. I've asked HR to bring her up when she arrives. He looked around the table. I need a recommendation. Before anyone could respond, his phone rang. It was Melanie from reception. Sir, there are reporters in the lobby asking about a $20 million reward to a cleaning staff member. The executives exchanged alarmed glances as Alex ended the call. How did this leak? He demanded. No one had an answer. Rose arrived at Meridian Tower 15 minutes early for her shift, as always. She wore her usual uniform, dark blue with the Citywide Cleaning Services logo, but had taken extra care with her appearance, adding a simple silver necklace Emily had given her for Christmas. The security guard greeted her differently today. Morning, Ms. Henderson, they're expecting you upstairs. Rose nodded, her expression revealing nothing. She had spent a sleepless night considering possibilities, preparing herself for disappointment. The cleaning cart stood ready, but she bypassed it, heading straight for the elevator. On the executive floor, a young woman from HR was waiting. Ms. Henderson, I'm Jessica from Human Resources. Mr. Reynolds asked me to bring you to the conference room. Thank you, Rose replied simply. As they walked the familiar corridor, Rose had cleaned it countless times. She noticed people watching her, whispering. Word had spread quickly. The conference room door opened to reveal Alex and his executive team seated around the table. The atmosphere was tense. "Mrs. Henderson," Alex greeted her formally. "Please have a seat." Rose took the offered chair, folding her hands in her lap. "Good morning." Alex studied her for a moment before speaking. "We've been discussing your remarkable insight yesterday. The correction you suggested has been implemented and is already yielding positive results. I'm glad I could help," Rose replied. "However," Alex continued, "there are some discrepancies we'd like to clarify." Rose met his gaze steadily. "Discrepancies? You told us you nearly completed a PhD at Columbia. Our records show you left during your undergraduate studies." A murmur ran through the executives. Rose didn't flinch. "I said I was 3 credits shy of completing my degree. I didn't specify which degree." "A technicality," Alex noted. "And your employment at Blackstone Financial last year? You failed to mention that." Now Rose's expression hardened slightly. "I didn't realize I was being interviewed, Mr. Reynolds. You asked about my education, not my complete employment history." Tara Wilson leaned forward. "Mrs. Henderson, you have to admit the timing is suspicious. 6 months at our chief competitor, then securing a cleaning position here where you happen to spot a critical error in our proprietary models." Rose turned to Tara. "I applied to 17 cleaning services when I needed work. Citywide hired me and assigned me to this building. If you're implying I orchestrated this situation, you're overestimating my influence and underestimating the mundane reality of needing to pay rent." Marcus Chen spoke next. "Why were you terminated from Blackstone?" For the first time, Rose hesitated. "I was deemed disruptive." "Disruptive how?" Alex pressed. "I noticed mathematical inconsistencies in their client reporting and brought them to management's attention." Repeatedly. Rose's chin lifted slightly. "They weren't interested in corrections from cleaning staff." Alex exchanged glances with Marcus. "So you have a pattern of observing financial models." "I have a pattern of seeing what's in front of me," Rose corrected, "and speaking up when I think it matters." Before anyone could respond, Jessica from HR entered hurriedly. "Mr. Reynolds, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the situation downstairs is escalating. There are now 3 news crews in the lobby and someone's posted on social media about the $20 million offer." Alex's expression darkened. "How did this get out?" All eyes turned to Rose, who seemed genuinely surprised. "It wasn't me." "Then who?" Tara demanded. Rose considered for a moment. "There were other people in this room yesterday when the offer was made. And walls have ears." She glanced meaningfully at the executives around the table. Alex stood abruptly. "We need to control this narrative immediately. Sarah, draft a statement. Marcus, contact legal." He turned to Rose. "Mrs. Henderson, I'd like you to stay here while we address this situation." After they filed out, leaving Rose alone in the conference room, she took a deep breath. Through the glass walls, she could see the frantic activity in the offices beyond. People hurrying, phones ringing, an atmosphere of crisis. Her own phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Mom, you're on Twitter, call me now." Before she could respond, the door opened and Jason Miller slipped in, closing it behind him. "Mrs. Henderson," he said, his voice low, "I need to tell you something." Rose regarded him cautiously. "Yes? I'm the one who told the press," he admitted, "but not for the reasons you might think." "Why then?" Jason sat across from her. "Because I recognized you. From Blackstone. I was an intern there during your time. I saw how they treated you when you found those reporting errors. Errors that were costing clients millions while inflating Blackstone's numbers." Rose studied him with new interest. "I don't remember you." "You wouldn't. I was just another suit in training," Jason explained. "But I remembered you. When you spotted Reynolds' error yesterday, I knew they'd try to wriggle out of paying you, just like Blackstone did." "So you leaked the story," Rose concluded. Jason nodded. "Once it's public, they can't brush it under the carpet. Reynolds cares about his reputation more than anything." Rose shook her head slightly. "You've complicated things." "I've made them honest," Jason countered. "You deserve recognition for what you did. Both times." The door opened again and Alex returned, his face taut with controlled anger. He looked between Rose and Jason. "Miller? What are you doing in here?" "Just checking if Mrs. Henderson needed anything," Jason replied smoothly, standing. "Water? Coffee?" "I'm fine, thank you," Rose said quietly. "Get back to your office, Miller," Alex ordered. "We're drafting a statement and I need your input." After Jason left, Alex sat heavily in the chair across from Rose. "The media situation is problematic." "I imagine it is," Rose replied. "For both of us, Alex added pointedly. Rose raised an eyebrow. How so? The narrative forming is that a billionaire CEO is refusing to honor a promise made to a cleaning woman who saved his company millions. It's not a flattering portrait. And the truth? Rose asked. Alex leaned forward. The truth is complex. You did find an error. It was valuable. But $20 million is excessive by any reasonable standard, and your connection to Blackstone raises legitimate concerns. Would those concerns exist if I'd been a white man in a suit? Rose asked, her voice gentle but direct. The question hung in the air between them. Alex had the grace to look uncomfortable. What do you want, Mrs. Henderson? Really? Rose considered the question carefully. Recognition, respect, the opportunity to use my mind again. She paused. And yes, financial security for my family. Alex studied her, reassessing. And if I offered you a position here? A real one, using your mathematical abilities? Instead of the $20 million? Rose clarified. In addition to a more reasonable bonus. Alex qualified. Say $1 million. Still life-changing money for you. Rose was silent for a long moment. Mr. Reynolds, do you know why I clean offices? The question seemed to surprise him. I assumed economic necessity. Partially, Rose acknowledged, but also because it's honest work. What I see is what I get. No hidden agendas, no office politics. Her eyes met his directly. Can you say the same about your offer? Before Alex could respond, the door burst open. Tara Wilson entered, accompanied by 2 security guards. Alex, we have a situation, she said urgently. We've discovered that Mrs. Henderson has been photographing financial documents. Security found images on her phone during routine screening. Rose's expression registered genuine shock. That's not possible. We have evidence, Tara insisted, nodding to one of the guards, who placed a phone on the table. It was Rose's, but when he unlocked it, the gallery showed multiple images of Reynolds's financial documents. This isn't right, Rose said firmly. Those aren't my photos. Someone has tampered with my phone. Alex looked between Rose and the evidence, his expression hardening. Security, please escort Mrs. Henderson to the holding room while we contact authorities. As Rose was led away, her dignity intact despite the humiliation, she locked eyes with Alex one last time. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. And somewhere in this building, someone is laughing at both of us. The holding room on the 44th floor was little more than a glorified closet with a table, 2 chairs, and no windows. Rose sat with perfect posture, hands folded on the scratched laminate surface, her mind racing beneath her outwardly calm demeanor. The security guard positioned outside the door occasionally glanced through the small wire-reinforced window, checking that she remained in place. 3 hours had passed since the accusation. 3 hours without her phone, without contact with Emily or Jamal. 3 hours to contemplate how quickly respect could transform into suspicion, how easily her integrity could be questioned. The door finally opened to reveal Jason Miller, looking distinctly uncomfortable. Mrs. Henderson, he said, closing the door behind him. I'm so sorry about this situation. Rose regarded him carefully. Are you? Jason blinked, taken aback by her directness. Of course, this is completely unfair to you. Is it? Rose asked, her tone neutral. Someone set me up. Someone with access to my phone, with technical knowledge, with motivation. The implication hung in the air between them. Jason's face paled slightly. You think I think, Rose interrupted calmly, that you're the only person who's admitted to taking action on my behalf without my knowledge or consent. Jason glanced nervously at the door. Mrs. Henderson, I leaked the story to force Reynolds' hand, yes. But I would never frame you. That defeats the entire purpose of helping you get justice. Rose studied him, searching for signs of deception. Then who would benefit from discrediting me? Before Jason could answer, the door opened again. This time it was Marcus Chen, holding a manila folder and looking grave. Miller, you shouldn't be in here, Marcus admonished. Return to your office immediately. After Jason left, Marcus took the seat across from Rose. Mrs. Henderson, we've been investigating the situation with your phone. And? Rose prompted, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Marcus opened the folder, revealing printouts of the incriminating photos. These images were taken over the past month. They include our quarterly projections, client lists, and algorithmic parameters, all highly confidential. They were not taken by me, Rose stated firmly. The metadata shows they were captured by your phone, Marcus countered. during your cleaning shifts. Then someone accessed my phone without my knowledge, Rose insisted. I often leave my purse in the supply closet while working. Anyone could have taken it. Marcus seemed to consider this. That's convenient. It's the truth, Rose replied simply. Marcus leaned forward. Mrs. Henderson, corporate espionage is a serious crime. The penalties include substantial fines and imprisonment. Given your financial situation, I imagine prison is not where you want to spend your 50s. Rose's eyes narrowed slightly. Are you threatening me, Mr. Chen? I'm outlining reality, Marcus corrected. However, there may be a path forward that benefits everyone. I'm listening. Marcus closed the folder. Sign a non-disclosure agreement admitting to unauthorized access of company materials but denying any malicious intent. Agree to resign immediately. In exchange, Reynolds Investments will not press charges and will provide a severance package of $50,000. Rose almost laughed. From $20 million to $50,000. Quite a reduction. It's $50,000 more than you'd get from a prison cell, Marcus pointed out. And your name stays clean. You can find employment elsewhere. After signing a document admitting to corporate espionage? I doubt it. Rose shook her head. I won't confess to something I didn't do, Mr. Chen. Even to protect your family, Marcus asked softly. Think of your daughter, your grandson. Rose's jaw tightened. I am thinking of them. What lesson would I teach Jamal if I lied to save myself? What would Emily think of me taking money to cover someone else's crime? Marcus sighed, gathering his materials. I'll give you another hour to reconsider. After that, we call the police. After he left, Rose closed her eyes, centering herself. The situation was dire, but panic wouldn't serve her. Someone had orchestrated this trap, and understanding who and why was her only way out. On the executive floor, Alex paced his office while Tara Wilson and Sarah Johnson watched anxiously. The press is getting worse, Sarah reported, scrolling through her tablet. Social media is calling it Maid Mathgate. There's video of security escorting her to the elevator. People are calling for boycotts. Alex ran a hand through his disheveled hair. This should have been simple. Find the leak, plug it, move on. It became complicated when she actually solved our problem, Tara pointed out. And now with these photos. Yes, the convenient photos that appeared just as we were discussing a settlement, Alex interrupted, suspicion evident in his tone. Doesn't that timing strike you as odd, Tara? Tara shifted uncomfortably. What are you implying? Before Alex could respond, his intercom buzzed. Mr. Reynolds, there's an Emily Henderson in reception demanding to see her mother. She's threatening to call more press if denied access. Alex exchanged glances with the women. The daughter? Perfect. He pressed the intercom. Send her up with security. Minutes later, Emily Henderson strode into Alex's office, radiating controlled fury. Unlike Rose's calm dignity, Emily's anger was visible in every line of her body. She wore scrubs underneath her coat, clearly having come directly from the hospital. Where is my mother? She demanded without preamble. Alex gestured to a chair. Ms. Henderson, please sit. I'll stand. Emily cut him off. What are the charges against her? There are no formal charges yet, Alex explained. We're investigating a potential security breach involving corporate documents. Emily's laugh was sharp and disbelieving. My mother? The woman who won't even take extra sugar packets from diners? The woman who returns extra change when cashiers make mistakes? That's who you're accusing of corporate theft? We have photographic evidence, Tara interjected. Emily turned her gaze to Tara. Manufactured evidence, you mean? My mother has worked cleaning offices for decades without a single complaint. Now suddenly she's a corporate spy? The day after she saves your company millions and you owe her money? That's quite a coincidence. Alex studied Emily with new interest. The same intelligence that shone in Rose's eyes was evident in her daughter's, but where Rose was measured and careful, Emily was direct and unflinching. Ms. Henderson, I understand your concern. No, you don't, Emily interrupted again. You have no idea what my mother has sacrificed. She could have been a mathematician, a professor, anything she wanted, but she chose to raise me alone, to work whatever jobs would keep us housed and fed, to put my education before her own dreams. Her voice trembled slightly with emotion. And this is how you thank her for helping you? By accusing her of crimes she would never commit? The office fell silent as Emily's words landed with surprising force. Sarah looked distinctly uncomfortable, while Tara maintained her professional mask. Alex, however, seemed to be reassessing the situation. You seem very certain of your mother's innocence, he observed. Because I know her, Emily replied simply. Can you say the same about everyone in your company, Mr. Reynolds? Can you vouch for the character of each person in this building with the same confidence? The question lingered in the air, provoking thought. Alex's intercom buzzed again. Sir, IT security is online too. They say it's urgent regarding the Henderson investigation. Alex picked up the phone. Reynolds speaking. He listened for a moment, his expression transitioning from focused to surprised. Send them up immediately. He hung up and addressed the room. It seems we have new information. 5 minutes later, the office door opened to admit 2 members of the IT security team. The lead technician, a young woman with purple-streaked hair and multiple ear piercings, carried a laptop. Mr. Reynolds, we've completed the forensic analysis of Mrs. Henderson's phone, she began without preamble. The photographs were not taken by the native camera application. They were remotely uploaded to the device through a security exploit in the building's guest Wi-Fi network. Alex's eyebrows rose. Meaning someone hacked her phone and planted the images, the technician explained. The uploads originated from an IP address within this building, from a device registered to, she consulted her screen, Tara Wilson. All eyes turned to Tara, whose composure cracked visibly. That's impossible. Someone must have used my credentials. The second technician spoke up. The access occurred from your office computer yesterday evening at 7:42 p.m. Building security confirms you were still in the building at that time. Tara's face drained of color. I can explain. Please do, Alex said, his voice dangerously quiet. Tara looked around the room, realizing she had no allies. Alex, you have to understand. After she found that error, the board would have questioned our entire department. Years of work, millions in bonuses, all at risk because we missed something a cleaner caught. Her voice hardened. We couldn't let that stand. We? Alex pressed. Tara hesitated, then her shoulders slumped in defeat. Marcus and I, we thought if we discredited her, the whole incident would go away. The company would be protected. The company? Emily echoed incredulously. Or your reputations. Tara had no answer. Alex's face had turned to stone. Where is Marcus now? Still with Mrs. Henderson, I believe, one of the security team offered. Get security to that room immediately, Alex ordered, already striding toward the door. And call legal. We'll need formal statements from everyone. In the holding room, Marcus checked his watch for the 3rd time in as many minutes. Your time is almost up, Mrs. Henderson. The police will be here soon unless you sign. Rose remained calm. Mr. Chen, throughout my life I've faced many difficult situations. I've made compromises, accepted less than I deserved, stayed silent when perhaps I shouldn't have, but I have never compromised my integrity. I won't start now. Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Then you leave me no choice. When the police arrive, they'll find additional evidence on your home computer. Financial models, client data, all very convincingly planted. Rose's eyes widened slightly. You would go that far? Whatever it takes, Marcus confirmed. This isn't personal, it's business. Framing an innocent woman is business? Rose asked softly. Protecting a billion-dollar company is business, Marcus corrected. You should never have interfered with our models. I should never have tried to help, Rose translated. I should have stayed invisible. Precisely, Marcus agreed, pushing the NDA toward her again. Last chance. The door burst open to reveal Alex Reynolds, Emily Henderson, and 2 security guards. The expression on Alex's face told Marcus everything he needed to know. Chen, step away from Mrs. Henderson immediately, Alex commanded. Security will escort you to legal, where you'll provide a full statement regarding your actions. Marcus's face contorted with anger. Alex, you're making a mistake. She's nobody, just a cleaner who got lucky with a guess. That nobody spotted an error your entire team missed, Alex countered coldly. And unlike you, she had the integrity to speak up rather than cover it up. He nodded to the guards. Take him. As Marcus was led away, Emily rushed to her mother, embracing her tightly. Mom, are you okay? Did he hurt you? I'm fine, Emily, Rose assured her, returning the embrace before turning to Alex. I assume you discovered the truth about the photos? Alex nodded, genuine remorse in his expression. IT security found the evidence. Tara and Marcus acted without authorization, hoping to discredit you and protect their positions. He hesitated. Mrs. Henderson, Rose, I owe you an apology, a significant one. Rose studied him, her dignity undiminished by the ordeal. Apology accepted, Mr. Reynolds. Just like that? Alex asked, surprised by her grace. Holding on to anger serves no purpose, Rose replied simply. but I would like my phone back. Alex managed a small smile. Of course. And there's the matter of compensation to discuss. The 20 million? Emily asked pointedly. Alex met her gaze directly. Yes, a promise is a promise, especially now. Rose shook her head slightly. Mr. Reynolds, $20 million is excessive, as you said earlier. I don't need that much to be content. Emily looked at her mother in disbelief. Mom, after what they put you through, what two misguided individuals put me through? Rose corrected gently. Not the entire company. Alex studied her with newfound respect.
What would you consider fair, Mrs. Henderson? Rose considered the question carefully. $2 million for finding the error. Enough to secure my family's future without being excessive, and something more valuable than money. Which is, Alex prompted, a position here using my mathematical skills, Rose stated calmly.
Not as a token hire or a publicity stunt, but because I genuinely have something to contribute. Alex extended his hand. Done. And I'll do you one better. We'll establish a scholarship program in your name at Columbia for underprivileged mathematics students. Second chances for those who need them. Rose took his hand, her grip firm. Now that is an apology I can appreciate, Mr. Reynolds. 3 weeks later, Rose Henderson sat in her new office on the 46th floor of Meridian Tower. The space was modest compared to the executive suites, but the view of the city was no less impressive. On her desk sat framed photos of Emily and Jamal, alongside her diploma. She had re-enrolled at Columbia to complete her final undergraduate credits. A knock at her door revealed Melanie, Alex's executive assistant. Mrs. Henderson, they're ready for you in the conference room. Rose gathered her presentation materials, her first formal analysis as Reynolds Investments' newest quantitative assessment specialist. The journey from cleaning the conference room to presenting in it had been remarkably swift. As she walked the familiar corridor, Rose passed Tim from security, who nodded respectfully. Morning, Mrs. Henderson. Morning, Tim, she replied warmly. The same executives who had once overlooked her now stood as she entered the conference room. Alex Reynolds gestured to the seat at his right, a position of honor. Rose, thank you for joining us, he said, the formality of their earlier interactions replaced by genuine collegiality. We're eager to hear your analysis of the Asian market's opportunity. As Rose began her presentation, she noted Jason Miller watching her with quiet admiration from across the table. He had been instrumental in exposing the truth, risking his own position to stand for what was right. Such integrity deserved recognition. Before I begin, Rose said, addressing the room, I want to acknowledge that this analysis builds on excellent groundwork laid by Jason Miller. His initial research provided the foundation for my findings. Jason's surprise at the acknowledgement was evident, as was his gratitude. Alex nodded approvingly. Rose's generosity of spirit continued to impress him. The presentation proceeded smoothly, with Rose demonstrating both technical expertise and an intuitive understanding of market psychology that even the most experienced analysts appreciated. Questions were answered with clarity and confidence without a trace of the insecurity one might expect from someone so new to the role. After the meeting, Alex lingered as others filed out. That was extremely well received, he told her. The board is already asking when you'll be ready to present to them directly. Rose smiled. I'll need more than 3 weeks to feel prepared for that level of scrutiny, Mr. Reynolds. Alex, he corrected, as he had many times before, and you'd be surprised. Your perspective is refreshing, unclouded by the groupthink that sometimes afflicts longtime industry insiders. Fresh eyes see old problems differently, Rose agreed. Alex hesitated. There's something else. The story has gone viral, from cleaner to Wall Street genius. The press is calling daily for interviews, and we've had inquiries from book publishers and film producers. Rose sighed. I'm not interested in publicity, Alex. I'm interested in the work. I understand that, Alex assured her. But your story has resonated with people. It's about second chances, about seeing value where others don't look. That matters. He handed her a business card. This is the contact information for a reputable literary agent. Just consider it. Rose accepted the card reluctantly. I'll think about it. Later that afternoon, Rose sat in the company cafeteria with Emily and Jamal, who had come to visit her new workplace. Their pride in her was evident in every smile, every excited question about her work. So you actually have people reporting to you now? Jamal asked, eyes wide with amazement. A small team, Rose confirmed modestly. We're just getting started. Emily squeezed her mother's hand. And to think 3 weeks ago you were cleaning these floors. It's like a movie. Speaking of which, Rose said hesitantly, showing them the literary agent's card. Apparently there's interest in turning our story into one. Emily's eyes lit up. Mom, that's amazing. You have to do it. I don't know, Rose hedged. I'm not comfortable with that kind of attention. But think about the impact, Emily urged. Young girls who look like me, like us, seeing that story, seeing that brilliance can wear any uniform, come from any neighborhood. Jamal nodded enthusiastically. Grandma, you could inspire people like me, kids who are good at math but don't see anyone who looks like them in those big jobs. Rose considered their words carefully. Throughout her life, she had chosen paths based on necessity rather than ambition. She had prioritized stability over recognition, security over dreams. But now, with her family's future secured, perhaps there was room for something more. Not for her sake, but for others who might see themselves in her journey. I'll consider it, she promised, but only if it can be about more than just me. About the barriers that keep talented people trapped in circumstances that waste their potential. That's exactly what makes it worth telling, Emily assured her. As they finished lunch, Rose noticed Alex across the cafeteria with several executives. He caught her eye and nodded respectfully. A simple acknowledgement between equals that would have been unimaginable a month earlier. The world had not changed entirely, of course. Rose harbored no illusions about that. Outside these walls, prejudice and assumptions still flourished. But within this small corner of the financial world, something had shifted. A door had opened that might allow others to follow. Rose's phone buzzed with a text from Columbia University, confirmation of her class schedule for the coming semester. At 52, she would be the oldest student in Introduction to Advanced Statistical Theory, but certainly not the least prepared. What are you smiling about? Emily asked, noticing her mother's expression. Second chances, Rose replied softly, and the view ahead. 6 months passed with remarkable swiftness. Spring blossomed into summer, and summer mellowed into autumn, bringing with it the crisp October air that energized New York City. For Rose Henderson, the changing seasons mirrored her own transformation. From invisible to essential, from overlooked to valued. The morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows as Rose reviewed quarterly projections with her team. 3 young analysts, who had initially regarded her with curiosity, then skepticism, and finally, deep respect. The conference room no longer felt foreign territory but her rightful domain. The correlation between emerging market volatility and domestic tech performance is stronger than we anticipated, noted Maya Patel, a brilliant recent graduate who reminded Rose of herself decades earlier. Agreed, Rose replied, annotating the data visualization projected on the screen. Let's adjust our models to account for the increased sensitivity. James, can you run simulations with the modified parameters? James Chen, no relation to the disgraced former CIO, nodded eagerly. I'll have them by end of day. As the meeting concluded, Rose gathered her materials, noticing Alex Reynolds waiting outside. In the months since her hiring, their professional relationship had evolved into something approaching friendship, built on mutual respect and a shared commitment to excellence. Good meeting? Alex asked as she joined him in the hallway. Productive, Rose confirmed. The team's making excellent progress on the correlation models. I've seen the preliminary results. Impressive work. Alex fell into step beside her as they walked toward her office. The board was particularly pleased with last quarter's performance. Your adjustments to the Asian market approach paid off significantly. Rose allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. The position had never been merely symbolic as she had initially feared. Her insights were genuinely valued, her expertise acknowledged without qualification. There's something else I wanted to discuss, Alex continued. The Rose Henderson Scholarship Fund at Columbia has selected its first recipients, 5 students, all with exceptional mathematical ability and limited financial resources. The ceremony is next week. Rose paused outside her office door. I'm still not entirely comfortable having my name attached to it. Too late, Alex replied with a slight grin. The checks have been printed. Besides, it matters. Names matter. Visibility matters. Perhaps, Rose conceded. Will you be attending the ceremony? Wouldn't miss it, Alex assured her. And speaking of visibility, how's the book coming along? Rose sighed. After months of consideration, she had finally agreed to work with the literary agent Alex had recommended. Challenging. Discussing my life with a ghostwriter is uncomfortable. I prefer equations to personal revelations. Yet people connect with stories, not equations, Alex pointed out. Your journey from that conference room confrontation to where you are now, it resonates. The publisher's advance offer suggests I'm not the only one who thinks so. Before Rose could respond, her phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced at the screen and her expression brightened. Emily's received her nurse practitioner license. It's official. Excellent news, Alex said warmly. She must be thrilled. Beyond words, she's worked so hard for this. Pride radiated from Rose. We're celebrating tonight. Actually, I need to leave early to prepare. Of course, Alex agreed immediately. Family comes first, a lesson you've taught many of us here. As Rose entered her office, she reflected on the curious symmetry of her daughter's achievement, coinciding with her own professional renaissance. The paths they had walked, mother and daughter, had been different but parallel, each overcoming barriers through determination and intelligence. Later that evening, the small apartment in the Bronx hummed with celebration. Emily, radiant in her accomplishment, sat surrounded by close friends and neighbors. Jamal, now 13 and shooting up in height, proudly showed visitors his science fair medals, his academic prowess flourishing under the example of the strong women in his life. Rose moved through the gathering, serving food and accepting congratulations with quiet grace. The contrast between this warm, modest celebration and the rarefied atmosphere of Reynolds Investments struck her anew. She belonged to both worlds now, a bridge between realities that rarely intersected. "Speech!" someone called as Emily cut into a cake decorated with, "Congratulations, N.P. Henderson." Emily laughed, shaking her head. "You know I hate public speaking." "Just a few words," urged her best friend from nursing school. "You've earned this moment." Relenting, Emily stood with her glass of sparkling cider. "Fine, but I'm keeping it short." She glanced around the room, her eyes finally settling on Rose. "I want to thank everyone who supported me through these years of study, extra shifts, and missed social events." Murmurs of encouragement filled the room. "But mostly," Emily continued, her voice softening, "I want to thank my mother. Mom, you showed me that education is never wasted, that intelligence deserves respect regardless of uniform or title, and that it's never too late to claim your rightful place." Her eyes glistened. "You worked cleaning offices so I could have opportunities. Now you're showing the world what should have been obvious all along. That brilliance can be found anywhere if people bother to look." The room erupted in applause as Emily embraced Rose, both women blinking back tears. Later, after guests had departed and Jamal had retired to his room with his latest computer programming book, Rose and Emily sat at the kitchen table sharing a final cup of tea, their nightly ritual maintained despite the day's celebrations. "I've been thinking," Emily said, cradling her mug, "about moving." Rose raised an eyebrow. "Moving? With my new salary and your position at Reynolds, we could afford a better place. Maybe Brooklyn? Somewhere with better schools for Jamal?" Rose considered the suggestion. "This has been home for 15 years. "I know," Emily acknowledged, "but sometimes progress means leaving familiar spaces behind." She studied her mother. "You've done it. Left the familiar role of invisibility for recognition. Maybe our living situation should reflect that evolution too." Rose smiled at her daughter's perception. "You make a compelling point." She glanced around the modest kitchen with its worn but well-maintained cabinets. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask," Emily replied. "Consider the possibilities." Possibilities. The word echoed in Rose's mind as she prepared for bed that night. 6 months ago, her horizons had been defined by practical constraints: bills to pay, schedules to maintain, a system to navigate without disruption. Now horizons expanded in all directions. The following Monday, Rose arrived at her office to find an envelope on her desk. Inside was an invitation to speak at a financial technology conference, not as a token diversity presenter, but as a featured expert on statistical modeling innovations. The note attached from Alex read simply, "You've earned this spotlight. No pressure, but tremendous opportunity." Rose placed the invitation in her drawer, neither accepting nor declining immediately. The prospect of public speaking awakened old anxieties, the same fears that had once kept her from raising her hand in university classes despite knowing the answers, from challenging authority figures who dismissed her insights. Her computer chimed with an incoming email, the literary agent with news that 3 major publishers were now bidding for her memoir. The numbers attached to the offers made her blink in disbelief. As Rose settled into her morning routine of market analysis, a knock at her door revealed Jason Miller. In the month since the confrontation, Jason had been promoted to lead a new division focused on algorithmic transparency. an initiative born partly from the lessons of Rose's discovery. "Got a minute?" he asked, hovering in the doorway. "Of course," Rose replied, gesturing to a chair. "What's on your mind?" Jason sat, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "I've been offered a position at Goldman Sachs. Senior management track. Significant increase in compensation. "Congratulations," Rose said sincerely. "That's quite an opportunity." "I'm not sure I'm going to take it," Jason admitted. "The work we're doing here, especially since you joined the team, it feels more meaningful, more honest." Rose studied the young man thoughtfully. "Why tell me about this? Shouldn't you be discussing it with Alex?" "I wanted your perspective first," Jason explained. "Your choice to stay here, to transform this company from within rather than simply taking the money and walking away. It changed things. Not just for you, but for all of us." The observation surprised Rose. She had never considered her decisions in terms of their wider impact on the corporate culture. "I stayed because the work interested me," she said simply. "Because I had something to contribute." "Exactly," Jason nodded. "And that's what I'm weighing. Money versus meaning. Impact versus advancement." Rose smiled slightly. "A complex equation with no objectively correct answer. Yet you solved it for yourself," Jason pointed out. "I chose the variables that mattered most to me," Rose corrected. "Your equation will have different weightings." Jason considered this. "Fair enough." He stood to leave. "Thanks for listening. And for everything else. The example you've set, the doors you've opened. It matters. More than you might realize." After he departed, Rose turned to the window, gazing out at the city sprawled below. The conversation had unsettled her slightly, suggesting a responsibility she hadn't fully acknowledged, not just for her own journey, but for its ripple effects on others. The intercom on her desk buzzed. "Mrs. Henderson, there's a school group in the lobby asking if you have 5 minutes to speak with them. They're from the Bronx STEM Academy, apparently here on a field trip to learn about finance careers." Rose hesitated only briefly. "Tell them I'll be right down." In the soaring marble lobby of Meridian Tower, 20 teenagers in navy blue uniforms waited with their teachers. Their expressions, ranging from boredom to nervous excitement, shifted to curiosity as Rose approached, introduced by the tour guide as one of our senior quantitative analysts. "Mrs. Henderson made headlines earlier this year," the guide explained, unaware of the full story. "She's living proof that with education and determination, barriers can be overcome." Rose surveyed the young faces, predominantly Black and Hispanic, boys and girls from neighborhoods like her own. In their eyes, she recognized familiar questions. "Do I belong in places like this? Is there room for someone like me?" "I understand you're interested in finance careers," she began, her natural reserve giving way to a sense of purpose. "But what you should really be interested in is possibility. 6 months ago, I was cleaning the offices on the executive floor. Today, I manage a team of analysts. The difference wasn't sudden brilliance. It was visibility, being truly seen." The student straightened, attention captured. "Math was always my language," Rose continued. "I spoke it fluently, but for years no one bothered to listen. Don't let that happen to you. Speak your truth, your insights, your observations, even when people aren't expecting to hear from you. Especially then." A girl near the front raised her hand tentatively. "Did you always know you'd end up here? In this tower?" Rose smiled genuinely. "Not remotely. But I always knew my mind had value, even when others didn't recognize it. Hold on to that certainty regardless of what uniform you wear or title you hold." As the students thanked her and continued their tour, Rose returned to the elevator with a curious lightness in her step. The spotlight had always made her uncomfortable, yet in this moment she recognized its purpose. Visibility wasn't just for her, it was for those who would come after, who needed to see the path was possible. 1 year to the day after Rose Henderson had pointed out the error in Reynolds Investments' financial model, she stood at a podium in Columbia University's grand auditorium, facing an audience of students, faculty, financial professionals, and media. Behind her, a large screen displayed the simple title, "Invisible Brilliance: The Mathematics of Opportunity." Rose adjusted the microphone, her hands steady despite the significance of the moment. This keynote address marked several milestones: the first anniversary of her career transformation, the culmination of her completed bachelor's degree, and the official launch of her memoir, which had debuted at number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice quiet but clear. "1 year ago I was invisible, one of the many people who move through your days unnoticed, unacknowledged. I cleaned offices while financial models danced in my head. I emptied trash bins while calculating statistical probabilities. I was both present and absent, physically there, intellectually elsewhere. The auditorium was silent, captivated. Today, I stand before you not because I suddenly became brilliant, but because circumstances finally allowed my existing intellect to be recognized. The question we should all be asking is, how many others remain invisible? How much human potential goes untapped because we fail to look beyond appearances, beyond expectations, beyond our narrow definitions of where talent resides? In the front row, Alex Reynolds sat alongside Emily and Jamal, all three watching with pride. Beside them were the 5 inaugural recipients of the Rose Henderson Scholarship, young people whose mathematical promise might otherwise have been lost to financial hardship. Mathematics taught me that elegance lies in simplicity, Rose continued. So here is a simple truth. Genius doesn't care about your bank account, your zip code, or your job title. Intelligence flows through every community, every socioeconomic level, every demographic. Our failure isn't in the distribution of talent. It's in our systems for recognizing it. From her vantage point, Rose could see reporters scribbling notes, professors nodding in agreement, and students leaning forward in their seats. Her story had resonated far beyond what she had ever imagined, touching something fundamental about fairness, recognition, and second chances. My journey from cleaner to quantitative analyst isn't a fairy tale, she emphasized. It shouldn't require a billionaire's whim, a public challenge, or extraordinary circumstances for talent to be recognized. It should be the norm, a standard operating procedure for how we evaluate human potential. Rose glanced down at her notes, then set them aside. The remainder of her speech would come from the heart. The most valuable equation I've ever solved wasn't the one that earned me recognition at Reynolds Investments. It was the equation of my own worth, recognizing that my value wasn't determined by my uniform or my paycheck, but by the capacity of my mind and the integrity of my character. She paused, making eye contact with Jamal, whose face shone with admiration for his grandmother. To the young people in this room, particularly those who feel invisible, your brilliance matters, whether or not it's currently recognized. Nurture it, protect it, and when opportunity presents itself, whether through scholarship, mentorship, or simply an open door, walk through with confidence. The world needs your perspective, especially when it differs from the established view. As Rose concluded her speech, the auditorium erupted in standing applause. Emily wiped tears from her eyes while Jamal beamed with pride. Alex Reynolds applauded with genuine enthusiasm, his perspective permanently altered by the woman who had once cleaned his office. The reception afterward buzzed with energy as attendees lined up to speak with Rose, have her sign copies of her memoir, or simply express appreciation for her message. Among them was Jason Miller, who had ultimately declined the Goldman Sachs offer to continue his work at Reynolds. Powerful speech, he told Rose as they shared a quiet moment near the refreshment table. Though I notice you didn't mention Tara Wilson or Marcus Chen by name. Rose shrugged slightly. Their actions were a symptom, not the disease. This was never about individuals behaving badly. It was about systems that enable such behavior. Still, Jason mused, must feel like vindication to see their replacements implementing the transparency protocols you designed. The best vindication is positive change, Rose replied. Speaking of which, how's the Algorithmic Accountability Initiative progressing? Jason grinned. The SEC is considering adopting our framework as an industry standard. Your mathematical rigor made all the difference in the final proposal. Before Rose could respond, she noticed a woman hovering nearby, middle-aged, wearing the uniform of the university's cleaning service. Their eyes met in a moment of recognition that transcended words. Rose excused herself from Jason and approached the woman. "Hello," she said warmly, extending her hand. "I'm Rose." "I know who you are," the woman replied with a mixture of shyness and determination. "Everyone does now. I'm Lucia. I clean the mathematics building." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Lucia," Rose said sincerely. "Are you enjoying the event?" Lucia nodded, then hesitated before speaking again. "I have a daughter studying engineering at City College. When we read your story, it changed something for her, made her stand taller in her classes, speak up more." Rose felt a tightness in her chest, the weight of impact, of unexpected influence. "I'm glad," she said simply. "That's all I could hope for." "She's applying for the Henderson Scholarship next year," Lucia added with evident pride. I look forward to reading her application, Rose assured her. As the reception wound down, Emily approached with Jamal in tow. Ready to head home, Mom? We've got reservations at that new place in Brooklyn, the one near our new apartment. The family had indeed moved, not to an ostentatious home, but to a comfortable brownstone in a neighborhood with excellent schools for Jamal. Rose had insisted on moderation despite her newfound financial security, establishing trust funds for education while maintaining a lifestyle that kept them connected to their roots. Just one moment, Rose said, noticing Alex making his way toward them. Alex joined their small circle, elegant as always in his custom suit, but with a warmth in his expression that had been absent a year earlier. Remarkable address, Rose. The board members who attended were deeply impressed. Thank you for coming, Rose replied, and for everything else this past year. Alex shook his head slightly. I've told you before, I didn't give you anything you hadn't earned. If anything, I'm in your debt. The company's performance is stronger than ever, and our corporate culture has improved immeasurably. A profitable transformation, then, Rose observed with gentle humor. In more ways than one, Alex agreed. He turned to Emily and Jamal. You must be incredibly proud of her. Always have been, Emily replied without hesitation. Even when she was cleaning offices. That's the point everyone missed before. Alex nodded, acknowledging the truth of this observation. Well, I won't keep you from your celebration. I just wanted to confirm that you'll be presenting at the board meeting next week. Your analysis of the European market expansion is exactly what they need to hear. I'll be there, Rose assured him, with comprehensive data and clear recommendations. I wouldn't expect anything less, Alex said with a smile before departing. As the Henderson family left Columbia's campus, they passed a bulletin board where a flyer announced the next application period for the Rose Henderson Scholarship. Beside it hung a framed copy of Rose's memoir cover, now part of a display on notable alumni. Still feels strange, doesn't it? Emily observed, following her mother's gaze to the display. Seeing your name everywhere after all those years of invisibility. Strange, Rose agreed, but purposeful. They continued to the street where their car waited, the autumn sun casting long shadows across the historic campus. Students rushed past, some noticing Rose and whispering in recognition, others hurrying by, absorbed in their own concerns. What's next, Grandma? Jamal asked as they settled into the car. After the book tour and all the speaking events? Rose considered the question. Her life had transformed so completely in a single year that the future seemed suddenly vast with possibility. The financial security from her position and book advance had opened doors she had never imagined approaching, yet her fundamental self, practical, measured, driven by purpose rather than acclaim, remained unchanged. I'm establishing a foundation, she revealed, having kept the plan private until now. The Visibility Initiative will identify people in overlooked positions with exceptional mathematical or analytical abilities and create pathways for them to receive education, mentorship, and employment opportunities. Like what happened to you, but deliberate instead of accidental, Emily observed. Exactly, Rose confirmed. No one should need a billionaire's challenge or public humiliation to have their intellect recognized. There are brilliant minds cleaning offices, driving buses, stocking shelves, people who never had the opportunities I've received. Jamal nodded thoughtfully. You're making a system to find the invisible people. To make them visible, Rose corrected gently, on their own terms, with dignity and tact. As their car navigated the streets of New York, Rose gazed out at the city that had both limited and ultimately embraced her. The journey had come full circle, from the woman overlooked in the conference room to the woman establishing structures to prevent others from being overlooked. The gleaming tower of Reynolds Investments rose in the distance, catching the late afternoon light. Rose remembered how she had once moved through that building like a ghost, present but unseen. Now her name appeared on the company's organizational chart, her insights shaped its future, and her story had become part of its evolving identity. You know what still amazes me? Emily said, breaking into her thoughts. That you spoke up that day. After all those years of keeping your head down, of doing what was expected, you finally said, I see the error. Rose smiled, remembering the moment of decision, the quiet certainty that had propelled her to break her silence. Sometimes, she replied, the right equation simply demands to be solved. Outside the window, New York continued its eternal rhythm. People rushing between moments, lives intersecting briefly before diverging again. On every street, in every building, invisible brilliance waited to be discovered, to be acknowledged, to be valued. Rose Henderson had found her voice, and now she would help others find theirs. The error had been corrected, not just in a financial model, but in the fundamental calculation of human worth. And that was an equation worth solving. If this story touched you, support our channel. Subscribe, like, and share to inspire more hearts.